Hey y'all, my name's Jonathan Daggerhart and I'm going to make a WordPress plugin. This WordPress plugin is going to provide a very simple user interface inside the WordPress admin backend to allow the user to create custom WordPress queries that we then template using custom HTML template rows. That may sound a little strange to begin with, but I think it'll make sense as we go. Ultimately, what we want to do is we want to be able to put a shortcode on a page, and that shortcode will show a custom query loop and a custom template for each row in that loop. So to skip the hard part of naming the plugin, I've gone ahead and done that by naming our plugin Osprey. And I went ahead and created the plugin directory and the plugin file with some simple metadata at the top. So now what I want to do is get started. On my WordPress plugins page, I see my plugin that I've created, and I'm going to activate it. Alright, looking good. And now what I need to do is I want to create a little area for me to do my work in. I'm going to go ahead and make the shortcode first, and that way we can see what we're working on as we're working. So I'm going to edit this page and put the shortcode I want to write in here. We'll just keep going with the word Osprey. Update that page, and we should be able to get started. Great. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do in my plugin is add the new shortcode using the WordPress add shortcode function, which accepts the shortcode tag itself as well as a callback, which I'm going to name Osprey render query shortcode. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And now I need to write my callback function, which is Osprey render query shortcode. And the shortcode callbacks in WordPress accept two parameters, attributes and content. The attributes are any additional settings you may pass into the tag, and the content is if your tag involves opening and closings. This is the content between your opening and closing shortcode tags. We don't need either of those right now. What we really need to do is let's just prove that this works and return some text. If I go back and refresh this page, we should see the word hello there. Great. Alright, so we got a little work area. We can use this function here to do our work. So this shortcode function expects us to return a text string that will be included on the page. So I'm going to start by making an empty text string, or a string that I call output. And now we can talk about how we want this plugin to work. So what we definitely want to do is we're going to provide arguments in the old simple fashion of WordPress long ago, where it is a URL encoded string of values, key value pairs. For example, if we wanted to show the post type post, we would do this, and then we would add another variable such as posts per page equals 3, just to keep this simple. And because I know this will be a problem, I'm going to tell it to ignore sticky post. Okay, so that's a simple WordPress query, and you can actually see, you can find this old query still around on the internet. It'll produce the same results as if we put it into a new WP query instance. It'll produce the same results as if we had created an array of these same key value pairs. So that should work well for us. Next, I want to set up a simple template row. And this will just be a string of HTML. And let's just keep going with our previous example of hello. Great. Now what we're going to do is we are going to make a new query using these arguments. We're going to loop through that query, and on each template and on each loop we're going to add the template row to the output, and ultimately at the end return the output. So let's see what that looks like. So let's set up a new template query by instantiating the WP query class and pass in our arguments. Next we're going to say that while the query have posts, we need to set up the post. This is all common WordPress query loop stuff right here. And at the end we know we need to WP reset query, and that'll fix any global variables that were damaged by this query. So now we just want to concatenate the template row to the output. And we should, since we told it post per page 3, our shortcode should now produce 3 H2s with the word hello in them. Let's see if that's true. Alright. So now what we want to do is we want to make our template better. We want our template to actually show content that is available from the post object itself. So there's a number of ways we could do this. But the one I'm going to use is I'm going to create my very own simple token system, where my tokens start with 2 open curly braces, a space, and then they close with a space and 2 curly braces. And what I'm going to need to do is, later I'm going to need to tell it that this token is to be replaced by some value from the global post object. And we can do that using normal WordPress template tags, as they're called. Since we're running a custom loop, template tags work just great. We'll see that in action in just a moment. Actually, we'll see that in action right now. So what I want to do now is I want to say that while we're looping through this, I want to run a function on this template row that replaces the values in this template with the values from this post. To do that, I'm going to use a PHP function called preg replace callback, which allows me to set up a regular expression string here, provide a callback, and pass in the subject, which in our case is the template row, the template. Looking good. So I did a bit of looking into this regular expression earlier to skip y'all watching me learn that. And what I ended up with is something a little bit like this. And what this is saying that, here, I'm going to close, one moment, I'm going to close this column. So we're going to have 2 matches every time we run preg replace callback, hopefully. We have one outer match, which matches the entire token, including the curly braces. And we have another match inside, which only grabs the word inside of those braces alone, such as the word title. We'll see what that looks like in a moment. And now we need to write our callback function. We need to at least name our callback function, which I'm going to name Osprey render template tokens. Sure. Actually, let's call it replace template tokens, because that's really what we're doing here. Alright, I'm going to write that new function down here. And having worked with preg replace callback before, I can tell you this is going to pass in an array of matches. This is the two expressions that I set up. Each time it finds this outermost expression and the innermost expression together, it's going to run this callback, and pass both of those matches in as an array. So that we're going to end up with matches 0, the first index of the array, 0, will be curly braces and the title, and matches 1 will be just the word title on its own. Let's prove this to ourselves real quick. I'm going to just var dump it out. Sure, this isn't rocket science here. And refresh the page, and we should see that yes, that matches is first the entire string and then this inner word on its own. Great. So what I know from this is that the one that I really want is this smaller one, this inner word. And what I need to do now is come up with a way to turn this word into a usable WordPress function. And I'm going to do that by creating a map, an array that maps that word to a function. So first thing I want to do to make it easy on myself is I want to say that the token we're working here with is matches number 1. And now I'm going to make our token map. This is going to be a very simple key value pair in which the key is the token itself and the value is going to be a callable function. And I'm going to rely on WordPress's template tags. So that every time we find the token named title using our regular expression, we hope to execute this function called the title. So what we need to do here is we need to find our callback. We're going to do that just by saying if is set inside of the token map, our token, then we know that we have a function to run. Additionally, before I go too much further, since preg replace callback expects us to return a value that will replace the match, I know that I'm going to need an output string. So I'm going to go ahead and start that here. Empty output string, token, got our token map. Looking good. And I'll go ahead and expect to return the output once I'm done with the work. Cool. So now all we need to do is we know that our callback function is the value from the token map whose key is index. It might be a complicated way of phrasing it, but who cares? So what I need to do is I need to execute this callback. There's a number of ways to do it. I could simply run a named variable like this, and that would execute the callback. Or I could use PHP's built-in method of call user function and pass in the callback to that. Both of those will work just fine. I'm going to leave it this way because I, for some reason, decided to like this more. Now, one other problem I see here before we go too far is that a lot of these template tags in WordPress, they output directly to the screen. We should be able to see that if I take a look. What I expect is that we're going to see that we do see the post title for each thing, but it's not going to be inside of the H2 as our template, because when we run this function, we're not actually doing a replacement, we're just echoing it out. So let's see if that's true. Yep, here are not in H2 post titles. Fine, okay. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to capture the output, and a simple way to do that in PHP is to use an output buffer, and those functions are built into PHP. What we need to do is start a buffer. So we're going to use ob start, and now all output is being buffered to the memory, and then at the end we just want to get our buffered content. So we're going to say that the output variable is now equal to ob get, and we want to clean our buffer. All right, let's save that. And we might just have a working template and token. Yeah, look at that. Post titles and H2s. Because what we're doing here is we're saying we found this match of the token named title, and then we buffer the output, run this built-in WordPress function, the title, and then we return what was output back to the caller, which is preg replace callback in this case. And preg replace callback replaces the entire outer match with the contents that we returned, leaving us with our post titles inside of these H2s. Pretty cool, huh? So what's next? Well, it'd be very easy to extend our template map, our token map right now. So let's do that real quick just to prove the point. And I want to provide a token called content. We'll just do it right there inside of some empty div. And the way I would do that is go down to my token map, add a new key named content, and a function that I know will do that work for me, the content from WordPress. That looks pretty good. So I think we're in good shape here. Let's see what it looks like. Yay! Even got a Twitter embed from Carl here. I'll find out who that is someday. Alright, so we have a simple templating system for a query that is in a shortcode. Next thing we need to do is package this all up into some sort of simple UI within the admin interface. And I will be doing that in the next section. Alright, let's make this admin UI. So there's a number of ways to do this. You can add custom pages to the WordPress interface on your own, or using various, I guess, methods or settings, APIs and whatnot. But what we're going to do is we're just going to make post types. That's right. We're going to make two post types, one that's called a query and one that's called a template. The reason for that is that I actually want templates to be reusable for multiple queries so that you can retain common styles throughout your site. And the built-in post type, database interactions are already built for you. We'll store a lot of our settings as metadata. It's just going to do a lot of the work for us. So let's get started. I'm just going to keep going beneath here, and we'll clean this up later. So I'm going to add a new action. I'm going to hook into the init hook in WordPress and provide a custom function that I'll call something like Osprey register post types. That sounds alright, simple. Now let's write that function. Cool. And what we need to do now is we need to run the register post type function in WordPress, which is going to take a post type as a string, which is like the slug or machine name for the post type, and an array of arguments. So I'm just going to do it all right here. We'll call this Osprey query. Man, that's brilliant. And since I certainly don't know register post type off the top of my head, I'm going to rely on the Google's register post type and go to this codex page, hop down to the bottom, and we're going to find a pretty good example with all these variables sort of written out for us. That looks good. So this array right here is the one I want to get. I'll just throw it in place. Oh, I see what happened here. Actually, let me just do the whole thing. All these arrays. Then I'm going to clean it up and make some different decisions. Alright. So the first thing is this plugin text domain. That's going to bother me. So let me just get rid of all that. Good. And my post type is not called books. It is actually called queries. So let's just do another replace. Then we'll just have to fix the plurals because we got one of those words. Okay, that's a pretty good start. All right, and our slug, our slug is going to be namespaced, if you will, to make it not very generic. And we're not going to support all of these things. In fact, we're barely going to support any at all. Let me just format these. I think what we actually want is, I just want title and custom fields. That should work out for us. So, I mean, that's it. Let's take a look to see if that worked. I'm gonna refresh the admin page, and there we have it. The queries post type. Nothing built in so far. That's fine by me. I'm gonna take a moment to go through these settings to make sure they are what I want. So this post type is really for developers, so it's definitely not public, nor is it publicly queryable, meaning like, I guess, so can it be accessed through the common core routes. Let's see, show UI, show in menu, query var, okay, that's fine. Has archive, nah, we don't need that. Menu position's fine. Okay, so that should do it. Let's go ahead, refresh, and make our first query. Let me double check that I got custom fields right. Nope, probably a dash. Refresh. Yep, okay, cool. We got custom fields. And for now, we're going to use this custom fields interface, and we'll save writing meta box later. So I'm just going to name this query. We'll call it something like my test query. How cool is that? 1, just in case we want to get crazy with it later. And I'm going to add what I want to do now is I want to go up here and move this data, this args into a custom field. Essentially, I mean, practically saving it as post meta on this new query post. So I'm going to add a custom field. Oh, maybe not. Let me enter a new custom field key rather. And this key will be called Osprey Query Args. Sounds all right. String, just in case we get something later we want to use. Let me add that. Okay, now we're good to go. And publish, and we should have a new post, which we can't see or really do anything with right now, but we stored data about that post that includes this this query arg string. So now really what we need to do is we need to make this whole shortcode a little better. So I'm going to go back over to our page where we're messing with the shortcode, and what I need to be able to do is I need to be able to pass in some way into this shortcode where I can tell it which query to use. So we're gonna make a new attribute that we expect called query, and we're just going to simply set it to the post ID for that query. I can recognize that post ID up here in my URL. It's 1266. So I'm just going to take that and throw it in here, and then we'll make this shortcode work right. All right, let's take a look. All right, it's all broken because my argument string is now empty. But now we're going to start using this attributes array. So the attributes, I want to combine the attributes together, and I want to combine the passed in attributes with a set of default values. So in WordPress we use WP parse args, and let's see, we pass in the attributes followed by our default values. So the default for query is equal to null. Why not? Do a little sanity check. We're going to say that if not attributes query, so if that attribute was not provided, let's just go ahead and return an empty output. That looks good. Okay, so now we know that we passed a query ID in. We can do some more sanity checking. For example, that post ID needs to definitely be a Osprey query. So we could say get post type attributes query. And if that is not equal to our post type Osprey, maybe Osprey, then we're going to return early. All right, I think we're safe to go now. There might be more checks you want to add in later, but I think we can be pretty sure that this value is a post ID and that relates to a post type that we're working with, the Osprey query. So now all we need to do is get post meta. Our args now become that post meta that we put in, and we named that meta something right here, Osprey query arg string, and we only want to return one single value of that. So I think we might have just fixed our shortcode. Let's find out. Hey, alright. So this isn't the best interface in the world, but now we have a UI for this. And we can do the exact same thing to make a very simple UI for our template. Let's do that now. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. And I'm going to take all this stuff we got here with our register post type. I'm just going to copy and paste it, and we'll just register another post type that we'll call Osprey template. We'll call it Osprey template here as well. And I need to go through and change all these. So let's see. Looking good. So that should have done it. Now we should have a custom post type called template. There it is, templates. And that's okay, but since this is a single plugin that provides multiple post types, what I want to do is I want these templates to appear underneath the queries header section, the top level menu item. And I can do that here with this menu position argument by providing a string to the top level that I want this to go under. For example, if I go to all queries here, this top level menu position or menu item is at this URL, edit.php, post type equals Osprey query. So setting the template's menu position to that URL should have made this a submenu item of our queries. Let's see. No, it didn't. Well, let's see what I got wrong. Nope, I've got the wrong argument here. It's not menu position. It's one of these other ones. Let's just search for edit.php. Show in menu. Aha. Alright, let's take this and move it to the correct placement. Leave that where it was. There we go. Okay. I bet this is going to work because I read the documentation. Alright, so now my templates are a sub-item of my greater queries menu item. Pretty cool. So let's just do the exact same thing we did with templates that we did with our query. And let's just use a custom field to store some metadata. So my first template, that's a pretty good name for a template. And I'm going to add a new metadata that I'm going to call Osprey template row. Sure, sounds good. Now I'm going to go up here and just move my template into that metadata. Template row, there we go. Boom. Save that, that looks good, it saved well. Publish it, and we're good to go. Sort of. Well, now what we need to do is, if we go back and look, it's obviously going to be broken because no template exists. So now we need to get this template from somewhere. And what I want to do is I want the template to be reusable so that a query is associated with a specific template, but multiple queries could be associated with that template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go leverage some more custom post metadata by adding a reference to which template this query uses to the query itself. So I'm going to add a new custom field that I call Osprey query template ID. Sure, how about let's just call it, I like query, that way we know it's attached there easily. And I'm just going to put in the, let me go get the post ID for that new template we made. It's going to be 1268. That's fine, I'll just leave both windows open. Boom. So now we've saved all that data, and we just need to go, so we need to get this custom field from the query, then get our other custom field from the template. So let's do that. We're going to say the template ID is equal to get post meta attributes query our custom metadata name, and it's a single value, and that's good. So we got the template ID, and using that template ID we are going to get the post meta. We're going to get our custom content from that template. So we want the Osprey template row from the template ID we passed into the query, or we saved it with the query. Alright, so I think we might have done it. Let's go take a look. Let me go over here, a little bitty refresh, and there we go. Look at that. So we've created an admin user interface using only core mechanisms for saving and everything. One for the query that has both the arguments it takes and a relationship to its template ID, as well as for the template itself. So there's certainly ways this could be improved. With custom meta boxes, we could make this a much better editing experience. Additionally, we could make this selecting a template much clearer. We could show the template name as a select box, and maybe in the vast future, far in the future, we'll make our query arguments into the array structure you might be more familiar with. But for now, I think we got a pretty good system going on, and I'm just going to extend it real quick to kind of show it off. I'm going to add a new token to our token map, and it's going to be the featured image URL, and that's going to run the function the post thumbnail URL, and that'll allow us to add featured images to our template. So I'm going to do that now. I might need to make sure these posts have featured images, but let's see. Let's just say add an image tag whose source is equal to this as a token. Yeah, that's not too bad. Save that. And we should see if any of these have, oh, yep, this one had a featured image, but these others two don't. So due to the way, due to that tag and the simplicity of our token system, this is actually, we probably have broken image tags within these rows. Let's take a look. Yep, broken image tag for Todd Gallery, broken image tag for Twitter embeds. So there's a little room for improvement there, but I think you could see how far we could take this if we wanted. We may even in the future create conditional statements with our tokens. So that's it for now, but thanks.